Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about a voice over IP phone system service provider that we recently discovered and have been working with lately. That is probably the last voice over IP provider that I personally know of that actually offers free IP phones with service with no service obligation. Now, let's just back it up a little bit so I can give you guys kind of the rundown on how the market generally works. As you guys know, I work with all of the voice over IP phone system service providers, so I know all of the different pros, the cons, what contract terms typically look like and what their general pricing is. To give you guys a general rough idea of how the free phones promotion in the market at the time of this video with the VoIP providers typically works is, basically, typically you have to be on a minimum of a 2-year service contract, period, end of story, if you're trying to get free phones or what we call phone or equipment subsidization. The other stipulation is you have to be at their middle tier pricing level. The VoIP providers typically range anywhere from about $19.99, so for the sake of conversation, we'll say $20, all the way up to typically about $35 to, in some cases, $39, about $39.95 per month per extension. So obviously, if you're watching this and you're thinking in your head, okay, I need 4 extensions or 5 extensions, you could safely, on average, expect to pay with a voice over IP service provider on average, however many extensions you have, times $20 up to about $40. It varies depending on the carrier and depending on promotions, and of course, depending on the deal that I can get worked out, special deal I can get worked out for you with the service provider. So anyways, back to the point about this carrier we're going to talk about. Basically, all of the carriers that I typically work with, Vonage Business, Nextiva, Jive, Ring Central, the list goes on and on and on, they're typically somewhere around, to get like free phones or to get equipment subsidization, phones that you don't pay any extra for, included in your contract, you typically have to be at no less than a $24.99 per month tier plan, and you have to sign a 2-year agreement. The 2-year agreement typically states that if you leave, the phones are always yours because the VoIP providers are not in the business of selling phones. They're in the business of selling service. So think of it as the phones is just basically leverage that they're using to basically get you on their service, because most people that are moving to a carrier, typically need equipment as well. So the contract is usually written in a way with pretty much all of the carriers we deal with is, if you leave, they don't want the phones, they want the money. So like, for example, if you had a 2-year contract where you got free phones from said provider, and say you left 12 months in, you can keep the phones and go to another carrier or even have your own in-house voice over IP, but you're still going to be on the hook by way of contract terms with the carrier for the other 12 months of service that you still owe to complete the 24 months. So that being said, this provider that we're going to talk about today, that I'm going to show you guys, they basically offer free phones without any service obligation, without any service lock-in. So without any further ado, let me show you who this is. So we recently found out about these guys a couple of months ago, and we've actually done a handful of deals with them, specifically with people that had came to me and told me, hey, I need free phones, but I don't want to sign like a 2-year agreement, or I don't want like a 1-year agreement, but I could use some help getting the phones. The provider is called OnSIP. So far, we've had a really good experience with them. My company actually has a dedicated contact over there for people that are looking for service, which has been very helpful. But let's just go through the quick rundown of how they work, because not only were we impressed by the fact that they seem to be, at the time of this video, the last standing carrier that offers free phones with no service lock-in, they seem to also have some really, really aggressive pricing and a really simplified pricing structure as well for people that are looking to find out, hey, what's the actual bottom line? So the short of it is they have 2 types of plans that you can use. They have an unlimited plan, which starts at $18.95 per month per extension. They say per person, but we call it per extension, I guess you would call it. And that basically is for 5 users plus. So one thing to be aware of here is they do require a 5-user minimum. We have seen some people sign up with these folks on a 4-user account. that just were like okay with it because the pricing was really good and they figured, that gives us some room for growth. Like if we add another employee or need a phone in another location, like a break room or something like that, or a guest room or whatever it may be, a guest area or lobby. But just keep in mind with this provider, if you're somebody who's watching this video that needs just 1 or 2 extensions or 3 extensions, these guys may not be your best bet. If you need 4 extensions, even though their minimum is 5 extensions on the plan, that's still good because their pricing is so aggressive from what we saw in comparison to other providers. You're actually going to pay approximately $2 to $5 less per month with 5 extensions with these guys than you would with one of the other providers that is requiring you to be somewhere in the $25 per extension range, and you only need, say, 4 extensions. So it's actually cheaper to go with these guys, and you don't have the contract lock in as well. So let me get back to my notes to see where we are. Okay, so back on the pricing. So they have 2 types of plans. They have the $18.95 per month, which is really good because all of the other hosted voice over IP carriers that we work with, they all have like a $19.99 like price plan, which is just pennies basically, high, like $1 or so higher than OnSIP's $18.95. The catch is with the lowest tier plan with the other voice over IP carriers, at the $19.99, yes, you're paying less, but you don't qualify for equipment subsidization or free phones with any of the other carriers that we know of on a price plan such as that. So just keep that in mind. These guys are coming in with $1, literally $1.04 less pricing structure per extension, and able to offer the free phones on a plan where there's still $1.05 less than the other carriers, whereas the other carriers at the $19.99 price plan won't offer you the free phones. So let's talk about the contract terms, and then we'll get into, I'm going to talk about this basic thing as well for people that are watching that this may benefit. So basically the the contract terms with this guy works as follows. These guys do not require you to sign an agreement that states that you have to have the service for 2 years. However, they do require you to sign an agreement that says, it's a soft agreement that basically says that you will keep the service for 2 years because you were granted free phones. Now let's just discuss this for a minute here. So you're probably wondering, what's the catch? As I mentioned before, with the other providers that offer free phones, if you're in a 2-year agreement and you leave, they don't want the phones back. They want the money for the remainder of the term that you are essentially defaulting on, or what we call ETF fees. So they want early termination fees, which again, as we stated earlier, if you were, say, paying, $300 a month with said carrier on a 2-year agreement, and then you cancel 12 months in, you still owe that provider $300 a month for the next 12 months to complete that term. And you still have to go somewhere else and get another carrier and basically get double billed. These guys don't really care about that. You're on a month-to-month contract with these guys. The way that they work to try to protect themselves, but also offer the free phones to the public and have an edge to the competition, is you have to sign a soft agreement that basically says, hey, you can take your phone number and your service anywhere you want at any time, but if you cancel service with us within the 2 years, we're going to prorate you for the value, for the fair market value cost of the phones, whatever it is. So just, we'll give an example here. So let's say that the free phones that they gave you were a bunch of Polycoms. We'll say Polycom VVX 250s. And the amount of phones that you needed with the account, let's just say for the sake of conversation, the fair market value for the phones was $600. And you canceled your contract. You canceled your month-to-month agreement with OnSIP 12 months into your 2-year soft agreement to be able to, for the phone subsidization. You would end up owing OnSIP $300 for the phones that were fair market valued at $600. So when you think about it, that's actually a heck of a lot cheaper than if you were to do this with another provider and owe the monthly cost versus owing just equipment, which these days hardware is not that expensive, especially not in comparison to the cost of actual service over time. The other nice thing about these guys is all of the phones that they offer that we've seen, which seems to be Polycom, Yelink, and Grandstream phones is what they offer. All of the phones that we've seen on their list that they offer are SIP-based phones. which means if you were to leave OnSIP, you could use these phones with any other provider like Vonage Business, Ring Central, Jive, Star to Star. The list goes on and on and on. Plainly put, these phones are basically compatible with pretty much all of the average voice over IP phone system carriers on the market these days. So if you left, you're not stuck with phones that are useless. You've at least got the hardware. You've paid for that hardware or paid for the proration after you've left, but you can still get use out of that hardware with whatever carrier it is that you choose to go with. Now, back on OnSIP, I don't see, from what we've seen so far for the handful of customers that we've worked with these guys, I don't see why you'd really want to cancel with these guys anyways, per se, because from what we've seen, they offer more or less all of the same features that all of the other carriers provide. The difference with these guys that really impressed me was they don't do the thing like we see with a lot of providers where it's, okay, here's the base package, and then if you want all of these other advanced features that you may need and that some average businesses may need, you've got to pay, an extra $3 a month or an extra $4.99 a month, or for call recording, you've got to pay an extra like $50 a month or whatever it may be. These guys do a thing where they have an all-inclusive unlimited package for $18.95 a month per extension. And then there's I think only 2 other features that are considered extra. One of them being like call recording, and I forget what the other one is, but from everything that we were able to see, the average thing that the average type of business that we've worked with, even the bigger ones that have got maybe 50 extensions or more, the unlimited package includes all of the basic features and even advanced stuff that most businesses that I work with would never even use. So anyways, that pretty much concludes the video of, this service provider offers free phones with no service lock-in. Again, to recap, you're on a month-to-month with these guys, but you're basically just signing a soft agreement that just says, hey, we hope that you would keep this service for a minimum of 2 years. You can leave at any time, and you don't owe us any early termination fees for service. But if you do leave, all we ask is to protect us, protect our investment, and to help people get the free phones that they need. All we ask is that you pay a proration of the free market value based on where you are in the 2-year soft agreement. So again, this provider's name is OnSIP. So far, we like them. Their customer service has been great. If you're watching this video and the pricing point, which is actually really competitive, $18.99 per month per extension, appeals to you, and you need equipment and you'd like to chat more about how these guys work and if this company makes sense for your business, give me a shout. Let me hook you up. Again, this is Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll chat with you guys again in the next video.